everyone, and welcome back. It's Gina from orchidandopal.com, and I am back today with a tutorial for the Chameleon beaded bead. This comes at viewer Michelle's request. She was asking if I could come up with a beaded bead tutorial sometime in the future, and so I got right to work and came up with this design that uses 2-hole lentils, Irisduos, Mobyduo beads, and also 11-0 and 15-0 seed beads. Now, you don't have to use this bead as a topper to a tassel. It just happens to work out really well with the 2.5-inch length tassels that you can get on PotomacBeads.com that they have sent in a couple of their recent bead boxes. And I happen to have that aqua color in my stash, so I decided to pull some other colors of coordinating beads that I could find to pull together another colorway. So we'll be doing some aqua and purple and silver. And if you want to also make a smaller size beaded bead, you can also follow pretty much the exact same steps and make this medium size one. You'll just be using 2 less Irisduos than you will in this particular tutorial, and you can get the same result. Of course, the other bead quantities will be reduced as well, but you'd follow the same steps and start out with 2 less of those. I hope to be coming back another time to do a separate tutorial on the smallest size beaded bead, since this one does not include the lentils. Unlike some larger beaded beads, we won't be beading this around a plain, say, wooden bead or something that we'd use as a form. This is one that is going to hold its own, and you can see that it will have that pretty large opening there that happens to fit perfectly over the tassel. So I'll just be showing you how to make the bead. If you want to add one to a necklace like this, I've used a couple of bead caps with another coordinating 10mm size bead and basically stuck a long head pin up through the tassel, through the middle so you don't see it, and through the beaded bead, through the pearl, and then made a wire wrapped loop to attach that to a chain. I'll leave the links to all the materials down below the video, as well as quantities that you'll need to make the large beaded bead, so be sure to check that out. Today we'll be using 2 beading needles. You'll want to use between a size 10 and a size 12 on either side of approximately 6 to 7 feet of beading thread, and I'll be using the 6-pound 0.006-inch diameter Fireline as my beading thread today. So you can go ahead and thread your needles on both sides of your beading thread, get your materials together, and we will jump into this tutorial. To begin, you'll have 1 needle on the left and 1 needle on the right, and you're going to start by stringing the following sequence onto these needles. Pick up an Irisduo and feed the needles 1 through each side of that. Then you'll want to pick up a 2-hole lentil, and if yours are the same design on both sides, then it really doesn't matter, especially which hole you go through at this point. You'll mainly just be seeing the edge of the bead anyway. So repeat this by picking up another Irisduo, put those needles through each side, another lentil on each needle, I'm going to go ahead and pull this down. So you can see you want to pull this to the center of your thread, and you'll have that little bit of thread that's not going to show once all said and done. Keep repeating this until you have 8 Irisduos alternated with your lentils, and then since we started on an Irisduo, make sure you're ending with 2 lentils. So at this point, you should have this sequence on your beading thread pulled to the center of the beading thread, and making sure, of course, your Irisduos are flipped in the same direction, which I hadn't mentioned before, but make sure that they are. And then you're going to be working on one side and then the other. So I'm going to start with this right-hand side, and what we're going to do is we want to form this into more of a loop as opposed to a strip. And we want the bottom of the Irisduos to go toward the inside of the loop. And we're just going to be wrapping this around, and coming out of this last lentil here, you're going to take the needle on one side and just go through, starting with the Irisduo there on the end, all of the beads that you went through before on that side only. So you can go just one bead at a time if you want to, and then pull your thread if you need to do that. But once you start pulling it, you can see that this is going to bring these beads together into a loop. So go all the way around, and you're going to go just a little bit past where you started. Make sure you're catching the same holes of the lentils and the Irisduos, so take your time and you will have still an empty hole on the lentils on either side that we will get back to. And then just go past where you started and come out of the following lentil bead. So you have one side that's a bit tighter now, and we're going to do the same thing on the other side. So you'll pick up that needle, and I'm just going to flip this around because it's easier for me to work on the right hand side. And you're going to want to go through all those beads again. So that lentil is going to be a little loose. Just proceed through the Irisduo and through all of the beads on this other side. Again, a few at a time if you need to, and then pull. And you'll want to bring these together tightly so that they're sitting without any huge gaps or without this ring being very loose. And we'll proceed to the same point that we did on the other side, just going a little bit past where we started through that Irisduo and then the lentil. So now that you have a ring in place just like this, we are ready to begin our next steps. All right, once your beads are in a ring, you're going to want to take your needle on one side once again. I'm just going to take this side, and you want to do a little turnaround. So we're coming out of this lentil right here, out of the inner hole. And we're just going to go back through the same lentil, just going through the outer hole this time so that we can start filling in the gaps between each of the lentil beads. And in between each lentil, we're going to be adding a Mobyduo. So pick up a Mobyduo, and you want to have the curved side facing out. So that flatter side is going to be facing the inside of the beaded bead. So go through that hole there and then go through the outer hole of the next lentil. And you're going to repeat this all the way around. And it'll be a little bit loose at first, but it will tighten up as we go and as we add a seed bead in between each Mobyduo on the other hole of that. So I picked up another one. I'm going through the next lentil bead. And we'll do that again. So keep doing that all the way around on each side. You want to put a Mobyduo in between each lentil bead on both sides, and then you'll finish by coming out a little bit past the first Mobyduo you added. All right, so there's one side completed, and I just went past the first Moby, through the next lentil, and then through the next Mobyduo. Now I'm going to complete the other side, and we'll meet back for the next steps. Now that you have your Mobyduos in place on both sides, we're going to do a step up on one side. So pick the side you're comfortable starting on, and you're going to go back through the same Mobyduo, just through the outer hole, so we can go in the other direction. And this time you're going to be putting an 11-0 seed bead in between each of the Mobyduos, going through the outer holes. So pick up a seed bead, an 11-0, go through the Moby, and repeat all the way around. And you're going to go through that first Moby once again and go through all of those beads again to reinforce this side, because this is going to be one end of your beaded bead, so you want that to be nice and strong. So just go through all of those once again in that top ring and pull tight as you go. So once you've added an 11-0 in between each of those Mobyduos there at the top, you want to be exiting out of a Mobyduo, and then you're going to step down. We're going to work our way toward the center of this new beaded bead, where we'll continue with the next step. So you can see I'm coming out of the outer hole of this Mobyduo. I'm going to step down by going back through the inner hole of the Mobyduo. Then I'm going to go through the lentil that's following that. And then I'm going to go back through the same lentil, but in the other direction, and also go through the Irisduo. Now we're going to be putting 3 11-0 seed beads on either side of each of these center Irisduos. So since we're already exiting out of this one now, we can go ahead and pick up 3 11-0s and then go through the same Irisduo, but in the opposite direction through that other hole, so we can start wrapping those around. So we have 3 there, pick up another 3 11-0s and swing back through the same Irisduo through the other hole. And that is 1 Irisduo wrapped around. We're gonna continue on, go through the lentil and the next Irisduo. And once again, you'll pick up 3 11-0s, swing back through that Irisduo through the other hole, pick up 3 11-0s, and go back through the Irisduo again in the opposite direction through that other hole and pull nice and tight. Now continue through the lentil and the next Irisduo and repeat this all the way around until you've wrapped 11-0s around each of those Irisduos. And you'll see you end up with 2 of these little strips of 3 that sit next to each other in each of these spots. All right, once you have added your seed beads all around the piece, now you can tie and knot off this particular piece of thread because you are done with this side, and then we will pick up with the other side of our thread. So just tie a couple of half-hitch knots where it makes sense, go through some beads, and then you can trim off this thread. And now we have our remaining side to work with. We pick up our other needle, and this next part, it kind of depends on what you want to do. If you want to add a tassel like I did to the piece that I shared, you can insert your tassel now and then tighten your beads around it. I was actually able to finish the whole beaded bead and then stuff the tassel in, but that's probably not how I would recommend this done. If you can just go ahead and insert your tassel at this point, making sure that those Mobyduos are all sticking out and not getting tucked underneath the beads. And you'll just tighten all of these up around the tassel with it already inside, and you can see how that's going to start to work. If you don't want to do a tassel at all, then you don't have to worry about inserting your tassel. You can just continue with the next steps without tightening it around anything else. At this point, if you are tightening it around a tassel, I just recommend going through this same row of beads one more time, just to get everything even tighter and ready for adding the seed beads down there at the bottom of those Mobyduos like we did before. So just go all the way around the same row of beads, pulling tight as you go and minding those tassel fibers. And just continue until you are a little past where you started. You can give this a little squeeze as you pull. That'll help tighten it up even more. And you'll want to exit out one of your Mobyduos so we can do a turnaround and start adding in our 11-Os. So I'm coming out of that Mobyduo. I'm just going to put my needle through the same one, going in the opposite direction, and then start picking up an 11-O, going through the next Mobyduo, picking up an 11-O, going through the next Moby. You really want to make sure this is tightening up around the tassel as you go. And then you get through the same one that you started at and then continue going through all of those beads once again to reinforce this bottom section. So continue on even after you get to the point where you started, going through a few beads at a time and tightening. And once you're satisfied with how tight that is around the tassel at the bottom, or if you're not using a tassel, just once you're satisfied with the tightness of the other end that should look just like that, you'll want to be exiting out of an 11-O seed bead in order to continue on with the next step, which is to pick up 6 of your 15-O seed beads this time. And then look for the lentil right above the seed bead that you're coming out of, and those are the lentils you're going to be wrapping around. So once you have those 6 seed beads on, go through the 3 11-Os on the side of the seed bead that you're coming out of. And pull nice and tight, and then pick up another 6 15-Os. and go through the 11-0 that is at the top of that row. Pull nice and tight. And that's what you should have so far. Now pick up another 6 15-0s. Go down through those 3 11-0s in the next row. Again, pull really tight and pick up another 6 15-0s. Now go through the 11-0 on the bottom, as well as the Mobyduo and the 11-0, and exit out of that next 11-0. And of course, again, pull nice and tight. And you can see how those 15-0s are really pulling everything together. And you're going to repeat that again, picking up your next 6 15-0s. Look for the lentil that's right above where you're coming out and go up the 3 seed beads there that are on the same side. Pull nice and tight. Keep your tension as tight as you can at this point. Then pick up your next 6 15-0s and go through the 11-0 at the top. And pull. Now you'll pick up 6 more 15-0s. Head down through that next row of 3 11-0s. Pick up 6 more 15-0s. Go back through that 11-0 at the bottom, as well as the next Mobyduo, and then you'll want to go through the next 11-0 as well to start your next group of 6 15-0 seed beads. Just pulling this nice and tight, and I like to kind of pinch this together too. I like that beaded bead to have a rounded look, and you can see how this is starting to come together. So just continue this step all the way around, and then you'll be ready to tie and knot off this thread and admire your work. And welcome back. I hope your beaded bead came out great. And I just thought I'd show you real quick me popping this onto a necklace. I picked out a chunk of amethyst that I've had in my stash for a while, but you can use an 8 or 10 millimeter bead or even larger bead if you want to add on top of the beaded bead. First of all, what I did was I trimmed off this loop. So just take your scissors and kind of roughly trim that off, and this will be covered up so you don't have to worry if it looks a little rough right now. And what you want to do is take an eye pin or a piece of wire, something like this. This one happens to be about 2 inches or 45 millimeters in length. And you want to poke this up through the center of your tassel so it's coming up around the center of your beaded bead. So just take that piece of wire and feed it up gently through the beaded bead. And come out right about the center as best you can. I'm just going to keep pulling that up and take a pair of pliers and make sure this comes up all the way. So I have all the length that I want to work with. And then what I have are 2 bead caps. One is larger and one is smaller, just because this particular chunk of amethyst needs a larger and a smaller one, but you can use whatever bead caps you like. I'm going to feed on the larger one And again, that's gonna sit right on top, so it's gonna hide the threads that you trimmed off underneath, just like that. Then I'm going to feed on my bead. And put on the smaller bead cap over top to complete it. And I'm just gonna pull this once more to make sure I have all the length of wire that I need. So I'm just turning that over 90 degrees, moving my pliers up and down, twisting the wire, bending it right over the top, moving my pliers just like so, moving the wire to another 90-degree angle, and then I'm going to take another pair of pliers. Got my chain nose now, and I'm going to just wrap that right around. And you can wrap that directly on some chain if you want to. And I'm just going to add that directly onto this segment of chain. And I'll just twist that closed. And that completes this beaded bead, the largest one in a set of 3, turned into a tassel topper and a complete necklace. So once again, if you want to do a slightly smaller size or the medium one that I featured in this particular necklace, you'll just do 6 Irisduos wide instead of 8 and bead in the same exact manner. And I hope to come back with a tutorial on the smallest ones like I mentioned before. So I hope you had fun checking out this tutorial and these large beaded beads. Again, check out the full materials list and links to materials right down below the video. If you decide to make this or have any other comment, I'd love to hear about it. So please feel free to leave a comment down below. And if you found this video enjoyable, helpful, easy for you to follow, I hope you'll give it a big thumbs up, and please do subscribe while you're here because I'd love to have you back. I'll be back again real soon, and until next time, I hope you all have a fabulous rest of your day. And as always, happy beading.